Hey, board gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo. This is another episode of Gumbo Live. Trying to get Chris Strain from Kraken Games up here, one of the designers of Asking for Troubles. Look, if you got some questions for Chris Strain tonight, you can always send it to me at Board Game Gumbo on Twitter. If you have some questions later on after the broadcast, Facebook.com/Board Game Gumbo. We're going to be talking with Chris Strain of Kraken Games. Kraken Games, he's the designer of Asking for Troubles and a bunch of other games, so I can't wait to visit with him pretty soon. You can always send me an email at boardgamegumbo@gmail.com. So Dave Dugas says, what happened to the old days of pen and paper? That's right. That is the way we used to do that. Dave's got the witty comments tonight. Don't forget to type that on your typewriting device. No, we don't have to do that. I sent Chris Strain the link, and I'm sure he's going to be getting in there pretty soon. So hopefully, there's Chris Strain coming in. All right. Board Gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with another episode of Gumbo Live. What's up? Is it Chris Strain?
Yes. Sorry about the delay there.
No problem at all, man. I was just, they only give you about 10 minutes to get the Facebook Live started. So I said, man, I'm going to have to just keep checking my emails and keep checking the board to see if he's coming in.
Yeah, sorry, I've been very distracted today. My alarm was on silent.
No sweat at all. Let me just get my notes over here this way, and I'll get right back at it. Yeah, BJ from Board Game Gumbo's here, back with another episode of Gumbo Live. I've got a special guest tonight, Chris Strain of Kraken Games. He's the designer of Asking for Troubles and a bunch of other games, and also right next door in Texas to Louisiana. So it's always nice to have that cross-border rivalry. Hey, Chris, I even wore my Texas shirt. I got a Radney Foster.
That's great. You guys are just a few hours away.
That's right. Radney Foster, straight out of Texas, 1959 shirts. I wore that just for you. So Chris, if any of the people have questions, they can hit me up on social media at Board Game Gumbo on Twitter, Facebook.com/Board Game Gumbo, or at email boardgamegumbo@gmail.com. A couple of show notes before I talk to Chris. We're still doing the beta testing, as you can see, with Gumbo Live, but it'll be probably Tuesdays with interviews, and then Thursdays doing that Thursday night quarterback after the Gumbo game nights. So, Chris, you and I have never met before, but I did see that you just got back from Gen Con and I was there. How did we miss each other? There's only 60,000 people there.
I don't know. Did you see any tall orange hats walking around?
I actually walked by your booth. You weren't that far. I was over at Fireside Games, and right. You weren't actually that far from us. So I actually took a corner and went left one time, and I saw your booth. I texted my buddy Dustin Boatman, the guy that set up the interview tonight. Dustin's a big fan of the game, and I said, hey, man, it looks like Asking for Troubles is going to come back with a reprint. So, let's just do a quick introduction for the people that haven't met you before.
All right. Well, as you said, I'm Christian Strain. I'm just one of the designers. Erin McDonald's the other designer. She can't be here right now. Also, as noted there, also the artist for Asking for Troubles.
That's right.
And part of Kraken Games.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of research, a little bit of homework about the game. I'd been knowing about it because Dustin brought it to Louisiana Comic Con last year, and it was a big hit. They played it a number of times at the con, at the board game section. So congratulations on that. So I knew about the game, but I was teaching on the side, so I never got to play it, and I haven't tried it yet. But I did a little bit of research. You went with a pretty bold strategy when that game came out with all orange, and Z Garcia was one of the ones that was kind of in favor of it. But I noticed by the time the Kickstarter came around the second time, you had settled into two colors that are not very well liked here in Louisiana, blue and orange. But that's okay.
Well, the first initial I guess the first thing that ever sparked the game was I just had this idea of making a game as orange as possible, which isn't normally a good way to start board game design. But from there, it spiraled into what we have now. But at first, I just went with orange and white. And, the first Kickstarter run, some people loved it, but it kind of put people off too much. So that's when I added the blue and some of the other colors.
Well, Dustin says the art is one of the things that got him interested in the game to begin with. So talk a little bit about how you moved away from those early parts and finally settled on the way the game is. My understanding from reading a couple of articles about you, you guys had this game put together in about 8 hours Of course, it took a while in development after that, but you kind of had the idea within the first day.
Right. Sometimes Aaron and I, when we work together, we can just sit down, just get a bunch of paper, pencils, and work stuff out. And it works in our head, and then it takes a few days to make the prototype and really test it. But from there, it's just a few tweaks, really. Although later on, the bumping mechanism that's in there, that got added a few days later. So
tell me about Aaron McDonald. How do you know Aaron?
Well, we're together as well. Boyfriend, girlfriend thing. Been together for 9 years, but we've been doing.
Are you both from Houston?
Yes.
Okay.
And she is kind of leaning towards the Euro side of games as far as a gamer goes. I'm leaning a little the other way, so we meet in the middle and try to make good blends there.
Did you guys go to school in Houston?
I went to school in Texas City, which is close to Houston.
Yeah, sure.
He went to Texas City.
Yeah, so tell me about Asking for Trobils. It's been out for a while. I mean, out of print for a while, but you were finally able to hook up with Kraken Games and get a reprint going. How did that work out?
You mean how we got connected?
Yeah.
So Peter Vaughn, the developer for Kraken Games, became a friend of mine at Board Game Geek Con, and we played games together, things like that. And whenever it came time to get a reprint, we didn't want to go through Kickstarter anymore. We love Kickstarter. We love our backers that got us all set up for it and everything. But we just wanted to hit distribution in a big way. I mean, if you saw the booth for it was huge. It was everywhere. And that's something we just couldn't do ourselves, And Kraken Games is international. They're big, huge. They're part of Bad Magic, which prints Cards Against Humanity and things like that. So, they have distribution and connections that we'll never have, and they're great people to work with too. So, like I said, Peter's my friend, and I've made friends there as well. So,
I want to talk about Gen Con a little bit more, but before that, Dave's got a question for you. How did you decide on the worker placement mechanic of constantly moving your workers instead of going on a round by round basis? That was one of the first games that he said he played with that mechanic. It's a little different.
Yeah, we had some people ask about why don't you have a first player marker, or why doesn't first player rotate? And the reason why is because there's no rounds. It just continuously goes, and the bumping mechanism pretty much created that. So, for those that don't know, if you place your ship like a worker placement kind of thing, instead of taking a turn to take it back, or you're taking it back at the end of a round, someone can bump you and give you back your ship. So they're kind of upsetting the order of things. So, it may start off going like this, but once someone gets bumped, they're then off the system a little bit, and it basically the player controls how many turns each person has in the way that works.
But it's got the positive and negative aspects, and I read that you kind of like that, where it's not really the straight worker placement where I'm only going to take that spot and no one else is going to have it. You can probably get it back.
Yeah, one of the big factors that we had, when we start a game, we usually lay out certain challenges for ourselves, certain rules, like this game is definitely going to do this game is going to do that. And so one of the things we did was we wanted to remove the frustration that comes with most worker placement games, which is getting blocked. You know what you want to do, but you just can't do it because somebody got there first.
Sure.
So we have the bumping mechanism in there, which I believe Euphoria had from Stonemaier Games as well. But we have that in there where you can knock people out of the way and give them back their turn. So, yeah, you pay in a way because you're giving them their extra turn, but there's not that frustration of getting blocked.
Yep, I like that. I like I forgot what Jamie called it from Scythe, where it's positive things that happen to you, not just negative. When you move your workers down on your Scythe board, it's a positive reinforcement. Not only are you getting it at the top, but you're also adding something at the bottom too. So I think you're onto something there. Yeah,
we're really big into not punishing people, but rewarding in the other direction.
Reward. I think that's what he calls it, reward. That's right. So I did see that you played Photosynthesis at Gen Con, and I got a review copy this past week, and I played it I think 6 times already.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, and Dave and I got to play it also. What did you think of what I didn't read is what you thought about photosynthesis at Gen Con.
right. So yeah, actually, I just played it the other day, or 2 days ago. Yeah. So one thing I really like about it is that the mechanics work with the theme. You know, it is kind of a very mechanical game, but it doesn't feel like it's separated from the theme at all. So, which, you know, I showed the box to my game group and they said, I'm just growing trees. Like, that doesn't sound very exciting, but once you show them the box and show them those pieces and talk about, you know, how the trees grow and change and you can block people with the shadows and things like that, it starts getting, you know, you start seeing that interest.
It can be mean.
It can be, especially if you get to the middle and build your tree up real high, right in the middle, you start blocking a whole bunch of people all the way around, but then you're paying the price of not cutting down that tree and getting the points, right? So,
was that your first Gen Con?
No, that was our second or third. I think it was our second.
Did it feel as big as last year? I know that they sold out, but it seems like with the additions of Lucas Oil Stadium and everything else, it seemed like there was a little bit more room this year. What did you think?
Well, I was wrong. Third.
Okay.
Third. Actually, the thing is that we worked so hard this Gen Con. We just spent the entire time at that booth. I hardly even had time to walk around. So our impressions was what that booth was and what was just around that booth. So I really don't have an accurate impression of how big it was, other than the fact that it was really crowded.
Yeah, it was pretty similar for me. You know, this first time I was on that side. You know, the last time I went, the first time I went, I was just a visitor. Being on the other side of the booth, and I've worked other conventions like PAX South where, you know, we're literally grabbing people and trying to bring them in the booth. But I saw every booth, including your booth. I mean, there was piles of people. As soon as one demo would finish, you know, you're starting a new one.
Right. There was no time waiting, which was great. You know, I don't like just sitting there hoping people will come by. We had people just waiting for the next to sit right down, you know.
So Dave wants to know, what are the differences with the reprint? Anything we need to worry about with the reprint of Asking for Troubles?
Other than the artwork and some of the production. So as far as rules go, there aren't any differences other than there's riffraff cards, which are cards that you kind of encounter. They're always either good for you or good for everybody. A couple of those work a little bit differently. We tweak them after a year and a half of playing it 1,000 times in demos and things like that. You're always going to be able to tweak your game a little bit. So we made some tweaks there, and there's a post on bgg.com. If you go to there under Trobils, that'll tell you exactly what those differences are. And on breakinggames.com, a few days from now, I think they're going to put up those cards that original backers and owners of the first print can get those cards and replace them if they want.
Hey, Board Gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, Gumbo Live. I've got Chris Strain from Kraken Games talking about some of the games. The big one that he's known for, Ask of Troubles. It's going to be reprinted. I saw on the webpage you were just talking about that they're actually taking pre-orders right now. Breaking Games is.
It should be. I should check it. It should be able to just purchase now. It shouldn't be pre-order. Still say pre-order.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Actually, it does say add to cart. I'm looking at it right now. So I guess you pay your $45 and you got it. And it looks like from what that BGG post I had read today, a couple of components have been changed, but other than that, it's basically the game, right?
Right. Originally, there were wooden components. So there were wooden carrots, and those have been replaced by punch-outs. But we've had more positive reaction to it whenever people see it, because at first you think, oh, I want wooden pieces. But the cool thing is that the punch-outs of the icons, they look like little space carrots. The leaves are purple and stuff, and they look just like the icons on the board. So it's a lot easier to know what you're grabbing, what you need, you know.
Yep. So from an art standpoint, it matches up a little better.
Yeah.
And every game company, every one of these third-party game vendors sell carrots and all the other stuff if you really want them, right?
Right. I mean, the only things that were wooden were, disc and cubes and then carrots. So, in fact, I made a BGG post where you can go to actually get those replaced if you want to.
So, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, talking with Chris Strain. Hey, Chris, I noticed that you have made a transition from publisher to game design studio. You had a nice, interesting post about it, but that was a while back. Mm-hmm. What do you think now? How is it going? Right decision?
Yeah, definitely. So anybody that's tried Kickstarter, they know how much work is involved, or trying to publish their own stuff. It's just too much for two people to try to do on their own. And and for us, after doing it a couple of times, we realized our joy comes from designing games and doing the art and graphic design as well. So if we're able to. So we decided, we could publish games, but it'd take us like a whole year to do just one, whereas we might be able to do 2 or 3 per year. And that's where that's where we really wanted to go. So
if you had to give some advice to people that are walking that tightrope, that they're trying to design their games and they're trying to publish their games and they're trying to decide which one should I be, what's your advice?
Most people know which side of that they want to be on already. They think, I want to publish games. I guess I'll design one and get there and get it published. Or I want to design a game. I guess I'll publish it myself. Whatever that thing is that you're deciding, I guess I'll do, don't do that. Right. Focus on the thing you want to do and find other people to help you do the other parts. There's so many people online now, so many groups and things like that willing to help. You can even get together with several people and kickstart it, form a team. So don't do it all yourself. There are people that do it all themselves, or at least look like they do it all themselves, but they still have help behind the scenes. I mean, Jamie is not and Stonemayer Games is not the only one. He has a partner and he has people that he hires for other stuff. There's always a team, and I'll meet people every now and then that are trying to do it all by themselves, one person, and it's just way more work than you think it is.
So Dustin's got a question for you, Chris. What are your favorite games? I know from an earlier interview that you said Acquire was a big influence on you. I'm trying to think of another couple of games that you had mentioned. But today, I mean, if you're like me, your games taste changed. There's new games that come out every year. We start to think about these. What are your favorite games now?
Oh yeah, I'm an obsessive game collector. I have way too many games. You can see a portion of them behind me. The latest one I'm just played like a few times, because you know how sometimes you get a game, you play it and you go, that's good, you put it on the shelf, you don't see it for a while. Sometimes you play a game and you say the next day you're like, let me get that out and play again. That's got to be Wasteland Express.
Oh really?
Like 4 times recently, yeah.
It just came out at Gumbo night a couple of weeks ago. I didn't get to play it, but Bradley and those guys and Dave played it, and they loved it, man. It looked pretty cool on the table too. Yeah.
It's it kind of hits that nice spot for me, sort of like Scythe does actually, where it has a Euro base to it, but it has the more exciting themes. You're not farming, you know what I mean? Well, yeah. I guess in Scythe you are farming, but there's mechs around you too, so
that's okay. That's right.
But it's the same thing. It's a pick up deliver game, but it has more of a fun theme to it and stuff like that. I love the marriage of those kind of themes with Euro mechanics and some American mechanics as well.
Well, you said Aaron is more of the Euro gamer, and Dave wants to know and asking for Trobils is a worker placement game. One that Z said is a great one for people to start out with. But what are your favorite worker placement games?
Lords of Waterdeep is a good one. I think it's about on the same weight as far as Trobils go. Trobils feels like it's lighter because of the artwork, but actually there's more unique mechanics in that one if you think about it. But some of the other worker placements, Euphoria is a big one that I like a lot. That's something we played after we played Trobils too, and we were happy to see that whole mechanic and stuff working well in there.
Yeah, Dustin talked about Euphoria earlier. He's a big Euphoria fan, and it's that bump mechanic. You know, that delicious decision that you got to make about whether you're hurting yourself or helping other people. You know, that seems like a big factor for you.
Yeah. So I think whenever we played Euphoria, we saw it working pretty well, but we wanted it to be almost a constant thing whenever you play. You know, once you start getting into the groove of playing on Trobils, you're almost bumping every time once everybody gets ships out there and stuff.
All right. So worker placement is all about grabbing the right spot before anybody else. Think back to Kickstarters. And that's my segue to Kickstarter exclusives. Dustin wants to know, you know, it's that worker placement game of who can get to the Kickstarter first, the very first minute that CMON puts out their Kickstarter. What do you think about Kickstarter exclusives? Should backers get things that other players aren't able to?
Actually,
I hope you don't mind these questions coming out rapid fire. These guys are not
at all. No. Actually, the last thing that I just kind of did that was public was I work for Kraken Games as well now as all kinds of different stuff,
sure.
Graphics development and stuff like that. But I ran the Kickstarter campaign for Rise of Tribes. I don't know if you saw that on Kickstarter or not.
I did. Yeah, I saw it on Kickstarter.
So in there, we came up with the idea of doing first print exclusives. And what that means is whatever the biggest first print we do, that's going to have an exclusive. And so, of course, that covers all the Kickstarter people. But that also covers conventions and stuff like that that's going to have that that first print. And it also covers retailers and people who pick it up right away because they just missed it, things like that. So it's a nice buffer. When you do Kickstarter exclusives, yeah, you always have somebody that pops up at the end and says, I'm just a day late and I missed it and I would have totally paid for it, you know. So we thought that was a good way of compromise.
Yeah, I did a little homework, and you've been doing some, at least the credits say either graphic design or art on a couple of games that are coming out in 2017 or already out. Tell me a little bit about those projects.
Okay, so I've done some stuff for Gray Fox Games, and I can't honestly know which ones are coming out, and which ones I'm supposed to talk about. So I can say I got to do one of the promo cards for the expansions for Champions of Midgard. That was fun.
Oh yeah, great game.
Yeah, the Shipwreck card, if anybody plays that was my first little piece of artwork for them that got published. And I've done some stuff for them in other games that haven't come out yet. So let's see. And Kraken Games right now is working on something that we're not supposed to talk about either.
Yeah, you anticipated my next question. You've talked about Evil Intent and Flipping Monsters before, but what's new coming out for Kraken Games? Is there anything you can share with us?
Yeah, so Kraken Games also has two other games with Breaking Games, which one of them is Flipping Monsters. That one's about development has changed a little bit on that, but basically it's got these cute monsters, things like that. There's a BGG entry for it, and you can see the artwork on there. Yep, but it's kind of like a memory deck builder kind of thing. That whole thing came about from my trying to get rid of the frustration of in deck builders whenever you build a great deck but you can't draw any cards that you want. So the whole game comes from trying to fix that frustration. Sure. And then we also have another game called Zozimos, which
I'm looking at it right now.
Right there.
Like designed by you and Aaron, is that right?
Right. It's basically a deception and bluffing game. Very quick, maybe 15, 20 minutes, 2 to 4 players. And that one's in development as well.
Okay. Any timeline you think on when that one's going to come out? Is it looks like it's Breaking Games also?
Right.
Okay.
For Zozimos, no, we don't have timeline for that. I believe Flipping Monsters is coming out next year.
Hey, what's the situation like in Houston? You have a lot of play testers that you can count on. What's your group like over there?
So, yeah, I have a game group full of people that just constantly get berated by our our game. We just come up and say, okay. What's funny is I'll bring a bag of awesome games that they want to play, and I say, before you get to these, you have to play this one.
The carrot.
Yeah. So, or the stick, depending on the game, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. It could be the carrot or the stick.
So I run those play tests through there, and of course with Breaking Games, whenever we give games to them, they have a studio in LA that they have people over every Saturday. I think it's every Saturday, or maybe it's Friday night. But they have people over constantly, big play test groups and stuff like that. So that's a great thing to have.
Well, is there a good place to go if you're just a visitor to Houston? What's the best place to go visit if you want to play games?
Well, there's a game shop called Eighth Dimension. It's right not down the street, but a few streets down from us. But it's one of our favorite places. Very friendly people, awesome place, and they just got a bigger place where you could just play more games and things like that. So that's a great place.
What's the con situation like in Houston? I know about OwlCon. I've never made it over there at Rice in the Med Center area, but are there any other gaming conventions there?
Small. I think it was 1,600 people at most
at RiceCon.
1,200, but all it is playing games. It's kind of half RPG and then half board games.
Okay.
And I do a lot of RPG all by myself, so I usually just do board games on OwlCon.
Are there any other cons there in Houston?
There's MagCon, which is a very, very small one, but they're growing. They're nice. I think they meet just outside of Houston or maybe around the area. We've only gone there once, but we demoed Evil Intent whenever we were there.
Where's Kraken Games going this year? What cons are you expected to be? You going to BGG, I guess? I
always go to BGG, even if it's not for work. It's just going to be, that's my favorite con because I just sit there and play games most of the time. But I believe there's going to be more work for us involved. We're going to have a nice Trobils exposure there.
Okay. What else? What are your other plans? Any other cons this year?
Nothing that I am 100% certain on. Sometimes, like I almost made it to PAX West, and then some stuff fell through. So sometimes, things open up and I can make it, and sometimes I can't.
Yeah, and this year people have had to make a decision between with PAX Tabletop opening up the same week as BGG, although only for this year, as you know.
Right.
Yeah, they couldn't get Philly on any other time, so to get slotted in, they took that week. I talked to Matt Morgan about it at PAX South, and he said, "Look, that's the only week we can get it. So we're going to get this week, and then after that, they're going to move us to a different week because they didn't want to compete with BGG. I mean, it's kind of a similar convention, although I think there's going to be more exhibitors at PAX Tabletop.
Yeah, I know a lot of publishers were just kind of like, oh no, where do I go? And I think they're going to PAX just because maybe it's the shiny new thing, and they saw a bunch of other people going that way. But we're just still going to be a lot of people at BGG. I mean, Breaking Games will be there, so I'll be there.
Dustin says if you need any teachers for Trobils, just hook him up. He is an Envoy Herald, so he teaches a lot of games for a lot of different companies. But yeah, you can always get him to do that.
We had Envoy helping out at the Gen Con booth. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, you guys are doing Envoy's doing a splash, I think, for asking for Trobils. Breaking Games and Ad Magic is one of the Envoy game companies. So
right, I think it's in October.
I think it is in October, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. I did remember another game that you like that we have in common. I've never played Acquire, but Abyss I'm a big fan of, and I think you're a big fan too.
I am. And it's weird how it kind of came out and then nobody talked. Boom. Yeah, and just like came out and then nobody said anything. And maybe it's because Five Tribes came out almost like a month afterwards, and that was a little more grabbed, I guess. But I really loved Abyss, and I was kind of sad it just didn't get the attention it deserved.
I've got a nephew who's really gotten into games last couple of years, and what was cool is he came down. He's in the military, but he came down to the house, and he's like, "Oh, you've got Abyss. That's one I've always wanted to try." And you know that thrill that you get when somebody says, "Oh, you have that game. I'd love to play it." So I pulled it out. Man, we played it 3 times that night, and it was so. I'd forgotten how much I enjoy the game. It takes 30 minutes, but as he said, it feels like a giant game in 30 minutes, you know?
Right. And the Kraken expansion is really good too.
I don't have it. I know I've looked at it, but I did see on Twitter today, hopefully I'm not botching this, but if I remember right, I saw that Bruno said there is another expansion in the works for Abyss. And I think the way that Abyss came out with a big flame and then Kraken came out right after that, Five Tribes comes in, steals a lot of the thunder, as you said. Maybe another expansion is what's gonna need. What would be needed to get that back yet?
It needs to be played, yeah. And Bruno Cathala is one of my favorite designers. So
Bruno Cathala. So Dustin Boatman's got another question for you. You said Aaron's the worker placement gamer. Are you the dudes on a map guy, or are you talking a different genre?
Actually, my brother is more dudes on the map, although I love it. So he owns all of those games. I don't have very many in my collection. I have Axis and Allies. That's more out of nostalgia, though, because it's like my copy from when I was like 10 or something like that.
So,
okay.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying that. So anytime I want to play that, I just go over to his house and play those games. Yeah.
So I'm the guys pick on me because I'm the Euro gamer. I like worker placement. I like any kind of Euro type game. One of the biggest posts we've ever had on the Gumbo was it's a word bataille, which is Cajun French for battle. We had this battle over the top 5 dudes on a map games. I didn't realize how popular they are. I should, because every CMON project that comes out that's a dudes on a map game does $3 million. Well, especially if it's got great figures. But you know, if you ever get a chance, take a look at it because you'll see a long battle. What's the game that you like? If you had to pull out a dudes on a map game right now that you want to take on with Dustin, what would you show him?
Oh, let me see. Well, I need a definition for dudes on a map because there are some mixtures of games that I usually go towards. Like, for instance, Tyrants of the Underdark does have dudes on a map, but it does older.
More of a deck builder, though, right? But it's got area control for sure. I mean, it does have that, right?
So if somebody says, Chaos in the Old World, although that's, I guess I'd go Blood Rage more than Chaos in the Old World, but
exactly. Now, did you hear that, Dustin? Blood Rage.
I do like Chaos in the Old World, though.
Look, he's still trying to hit it. He's still saying, no, it's not Chaos, it's Blood Rage. And Blood Rage, you don't have a map made out of human skin, okay? So that's
I don't mind that as much. I actually like the theme and stuff. It was clever and all. Yeah, I just think maybe it's just because I played Blood Rage first, then Chaos.
I have to throw that up there. That's Dave being Dave. So Dave being Dave.
Odds of bored to death.
Yeah. Yeah, our special guest Chris Strain of Kraken Games. Hey, how can they reach you on social media?
You can find Kraken Games or even me. I'm stupid. I just say yes to almost every friend request on Facebook. I'm normally in the board game groups or BGG groups and stuff on Facebook. You can also find me on bgg.com.
And if they want to ask of a Trobils, best way is just to go to breakinggames.com, I guess. Is that right?
For right now, yeah. I think in the next month or so, they're going to start seeing it appear on shelves and stores and hopefully some bigger stores, we'll see. And then in Amazon, I think.
Okay.
So one of the problems is not being part of that publisher anymore is that I'm not quite clear on where we are on some of those things. But
do you know the street dates anymore, or you just leave the publishers up to that, right?
Yeah, I just kind of let them do it. You know, they're good people, so I just trust them to figure it out.
All right, I told you about our Envie game, right?
Yes.
Yes, an Envie, great Cajun word. It means big want. I mean, you really want something, all right? So I've got Dustin, I've got Dave here to help me, and maybe a couple other people that are watching. So what's that game? Doesn't have to be in your collection. Could be in or out of your collection. Could be something that you don't even own, something you haven't even played yet, or maybe your favorite game. What's that game you really want to play? And we're going to see if we can try to guess that thing. So let me start my little sheet here.
Now I'm going to have to make sure I don't pick something I've already talked about, though.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, well, you can make it easy for us like that. So
talk about a lot of games. Let's see here.
So you keep working on it. I'm going to get my ready. All right. So you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So, well, you know, the first question I would probably want to ask is, so the first question, is it an American game, American publisher?
No.
American, okay. Let's see. Well, is it a worker placement game? I gotta ask that since we spent half the night talking about that, right?
No,
not a worker placement game. So, is it a European designer?
Yes.
European designer. Yes. All right. You said you liked Bruno, and I'm assuming Bruno Catala, not Bruno Fedudi. So I'm going to say, was it one of the Brunos?
It was.
It was designed by one of the Brunos. Okay. We're getting close on this one now. No, it's not.
Hold on.
It's not Food Chain Magnet, Dustin.
We'll start changing it up on you.
No, do not change it. Do not change it. So
I know.
One of the Brunos. But the problem with being one of the Brunos is that's 15 of the top, 500 games. That's a lot of games up there. Is it a quick game? In other words, short play time, 15 to 30 minutes.
No.
So it's a longer game, not a short game. Let's see. Come on, Dustin, help me out with something better than Food Chain Magnet. Neither one of the Brunos were involved in Food Chain Magnet. Have you played Food Chain Magnet, by the way?
I have. I played at BGG last year.
What'd you think?
It was, as an artist and graphic designer, I felt like something was missing.
Yeah.
But it had solid mechanics and everything. I wouldn't recommend anybody spend that much money for it. It's a great game. And it would be great at a normal MSRP, if that makes any sense.
That's Splatter, right? Splatter Spell?
Yeah. And that's their model, and that's great. And I'm glad they're successful at it and stuff like that.
And while I continue to stall while I think of this game. By the way, Dustin wants to know, is it Citadel?
No.
Citadels. Okay, so it's not Citadels. While I continue to stall, did you see that the new Pandemic that is coming out is by one of the co-designers from Splatterspell?
Oh, really?
Yeah, the new Pandemic.
The part 2, the Legacy part 2?
No, not the Legacy. The regular they're doing these one-off Pandemics every year for the Pandemic World Championships based on the area. So they're doing one about, I think it's in Amsterdam. I think it's in Holland. So it's about flooding over there. I don't know if you saw Z-Man untimely released it right around Houston's Harvey, the big press announcement, and then had to pull back. I mean, obviously they just didn't.
Yeah, those things get planned months in advance. They wouldn't have known. Yeah.
So we've got a couple of comments about Food Chain Magnet here, yeah, and that's pretty accurate. But if you get past that, you got to get to the gameplay. So, back to the game. So it's not American. It's not worker placement. It is a Euro designer. It's one of the Brunos. It's not a short game. All right. So let's eliminate. Is a Bruno Fedudi game?
No.
Okay. So it's a Bruno Catala game, right?
Yes.
Bruno Catala. All right. So that's still got 13 left. I'm close on you. Dustin wants to know if it's Pandemic Re-Legacy. It's not Pandemic Re-Legacy. Of course not. Of course not. Do y'all have any real guesses, Dustin or David? It doesn't appear so. Let me see. I'm doing this without clicking on Board Game Geek, by the way. I'm trying to do this actively. Yeah, no BGG. The only typing you hear is me typing out the question, so I don't ask you the same ones. Man. Let's see. Yeah, I do mix up the two Brunos sometimes with the game, so I'm going to get them wrong.
I actually saw him at Gen Con. Did you see him walking around at Gen Con?
He was there. I did not see Catala. Fedudi, I gave a demo to for Kaiju Crush at Fireside Games, and he bought the game. How you like that?
Nice. Good demo.
I like that. Yeah, I guess. I guess I didn't get any of the rules wrong. So, which is kind of famous. So yeah, Dustin says he loves Bruno as well. So why don't you name some games, Bruno? I mean, Dustin. I'm thinking. I always forget if this is his game or not, but Shadows of the Camelot is one of my favorite games. Mm-hmm. Yep. Isn't that Bruno Catala?
It is.
Okay, not that one then. Huh?
Not my game though.
Oh, that's got to be it. Oh, I think Dustin's got it, man. Let's see. Yay, nay. Mission Red Planet?
Nope.
No, it's not Mission Red Planet. Okay. So if you like Dudes on the Map games, Dave Dugas probably has it, and he's going to beat me, and he's going to. Is it Cyclades?
It is.
It is Cyclades or
It is.
Cyclades, as some people say. I should have, but
I will always jump into that game if it's offered. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm curious why Cyclades? You know, the little the triplets, Kemet, Cyclades, and Inish, and
Right.
you've got Cyclades, I guess, at the top of those three.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, it's funny that I never really thought about Ennis being. I guess it is, huh? So
Matago says they don't
right,
call it a trilogy, but they do say that they're sort of spiritual successors of each other. You know what I mean?
right, and I could see that. I actually described Ennis as that last like 5 minutes of Cyclades where you're worried about who's going to win. Ennis is that for the entire game.
Yeah.
I think the reason why I like it is, well, so the whole bidding mechanism of I'm going to bid this to make somebody else bid higher than me, even though it's not the thing I want to do. And there's just all these devious little things you can do. Or I'm going to make that person bid so I don't even have to be in it. And it looks like a combat game, but you could win without ever doing combat, or you could really just drive over everybody if you wanted to. It's almost like an open world for me because anytime I sit down, I can think, what strategy do I want to start with this time? I guess I just never get tired of it.
Do you play with the expansion?
I have the Hades expansion, and we played with it before. I think last time we just decided not to play with it, though. I think it was great. But I just haven't gotten to that part where, I'm tired of it, so I'll add the expansion. I'm still not tired of it on the base game. So,
well, man, I really appreciate you coming in. I know we started a little bit late, and I'm a little past time, but I've enjoyed just visiting with you. I'm trying to make it to BGG. So is Dustin. Carlos will be there. So if you see any Gumbo shirts or Gumbo hats, it might be Carlos. So stop and say hi to Carlos. Bradley will also be there. Bradley's our biggest play tester of the group. If you got something you need broken, Bradley will get that done for you. I'm not kidding. He's a great play tester.
I have a game over there at that time that I could show somebody. Sure.
Oh, one more question from Dave Dugal. What's the expansion you like the most? He's a huge fan of both Kemet and Cyclades.
Oh, which expansion for Cyclades?
Yeah. What's the one you like the most?
I think I do like the Hades expansion. I mean, I really did like it. I think I like the simplicity of the base game, so I go back to it.
All right, this is BJ from Board Game Gumbo, and I've been talking to Chris Strain. I really want to thank you for coming in. Chris, remind me again, how can the fans out there of Asking for Troubles or Kraken Games reach you on social media?
Kraken Games on Facebook. You can also just find me out there, Chris Strain. And then we also have a Twitter as well, Kraken Games Info.
And if they want to ask for Troubles, best place right now is go to breakinggames.com, but it's going to be out on Amazon and hopefully out in your local game stores pretty soon, right?
Right.
Well, Chris, good luck with the new games. I'm really excited that you came in on the Gumbo Live. Sorry about the beta testing. We're still putting the thing together, but we're really having fun, especially talking to some Southern designers. You're our third one from here in Texas and Louisiana that we've talked to. Okay. So yeah, we got to talk to Lanyard Games, Derek Dooley from Lanyard Games, and also Jason Dinger from Morgan City, who's got Captains of the Gulf coming out from at Essen in 2018. So keep your eye out for that. Louisiana, Texas, strong with the gaming. Hopefully, I'll see you at BGG. And again, good luck with the new games. And until next time, man, laissez le bon temps rouler. Check you later.